Yeah, he's like a little girl. He's like a little girl right now.
To start. So Luke calls me and goes, "Hey, are you nervous? Are you excited? I mean, it's scary." Like,
I didn't just call Daniel; it was a three-way.
Now, I know that this is pretty much all you're going to see of the shop, but this is how exciting I am. Is that I actually cleaned the shop.
Nice.
So that you could only see this much of me. I cleaned the whole shop. That's how excited I am right now.
That's what I need to do. I need to clean my shop.
Oh, dude. I'm trying to slowly clean up so I can actually accommodate for like the lead head, spinner, dryer, some other things going on, a hot plate, a easy bake oven or whatever. I just realized I don't have my headphones on, so let me put these on.
So what was great is I told Daniel, I said, "Are you nervous?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Yeah. You know, I was pretty nervous when we had Nick from Cast and Crank on here." And I said, "You should really be nervous right now."
Nah, not at all, man. I'm just a normal dude.
Regardless,
You're just like everybody else, only when you wake up in the morning, you pour badass baits.
Thank you.
No, they're just raining down as he wakes up. They're making themselves sleep.
I wish.
You gotta understand that.
I have to force myself to make baits sometimes.
Yeah.
Man, it does not look like that, man. Like it really doesn't.
Sometimes the internet bites more than what it really does. You know what I mean?
Right.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. But first of all, man, thanks for joining us tonight. Really stoked to have you on, man. Like I was really stoked to have you on. You know. So thank you.
It looks like no problem. Thank you. Don't listen to that Mexican guy, Mike Escamilla, that made that comment.
Well, now I got to look through and see what he said.
I can't. No, I'm not seeing those comments.
That's my good friend Mike Escamilla, Rooftop. He's a.
Why can I see the comments now?
He's a BMX.
You need a new phone.
So Charlie, can you or can you not see the comments?
I only see. The only thing I see is Subby saying what's up, and then Salty saying hey, good looking, and that's it.
Really interesting. Can you scroll down?
You probably have it set somehow where you only see people you're following. So are you going to be coming to any of the shows that are coming up?
I'm going to be going to the PCS show for sure. That was always a fun one. You know, me and my boys used to go from back when it was just one small little room. It was always a fun, kickoff show before the Fred Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And it was super fun. You know, a lot of the core guys always went to that one.
And it was always more geared to like the private boater type of.
Yep.
Yeah.
A little more accommodating. You know, you have all the core guys in the bass scene, the offshore scene, giving their input, their advice. It was a little more tight niched, a little more personal. So I'm glad to see them grow for sure. It's a rad show, man. And I think it's perfect timing for them to grow and have it get much bigger and bigger and bigger. Hopefully they keep those same core values as they grow.
Yeah. Well, last year, I want to say they were like double in size, but it still felt like the same show.
Yeah, for sure. It was the same vibe, same atmosphere, real laid back. A lot of good energy there and not so like stuffy. I would say like Fred Hall gets a little stuffy sometimes.
Fred Hall, you almost feel like you're about to get in trouble for something too.
We've almost been kicked out a few times for backpacking our own beers in.
Mm-hmm. I got a buddy who wanted to sell his boat, and so he brought it to Fred Hall and sold it in the parking lot. And Fred Hall himself came to kick him out, and he goes, "That's fine. Just give me my money back for parking. I paid the extra money for a trailer. You guys let me in and charged me."
Yeah, I think it was Fred Hall or one of his sons that came and told us we can't drink our own beers.
You're only drinking our beers.
Dude, that's fun. No.
So this is probably going to be the first time that I go to a show. I'm pretty stoked about it.
To the Fred Hall?
You never been to a Fred Hall?
No.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah,
pretty
You're going with the wrong crowd. Let me tell you this, because we're planning to get kicked out. See, that's our goal from the beginning. See, some people go for the deals, for the fun, for the camaraderie of it. No, we go purely to sell boats and get kicked out.
There you go.
Are you going to have any of your stuff for sale there, or are you just coming to check it out?
No, man, I just like to check it out. I kind of thought about it for a minute, and then they had a few rules that I just, they want insurance and all that stuff, which I totally get, but I'm just not at that level. This whole bait thing's just a hobby gone wild, kind of, and under the table. I work full time in the printing industry, so that's my 9 to 5. You know what I mean? I manage big printing presses for a living.
Nice. Like industrial printing?
Yeah, a lot of big size sheet. It's called sheet fed. A lot of brochures, commercial work, a lot of cannabis packaging, alcohol packaging, cosmetic packaging.
Nice.
Everything needs a package, and all that stuff needs to be printed. So that's what I do.
Interesting. Dope, when we make it big, we'll hit you up for some.
Hit me up.
It's like 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road, but we'll be packaging sooner or later.
So did you hit chlamydia over the weekend?
Yeah. Usually we always try and go around the first of the year, but man, it's been so stormy and nasty out. I didn't even buy a license until Thursday or Friday, and there's a small weather window. So my good friend Jay, he's like, hey, let's take my boat out. Let's go out there and get our first trip in. Wasn't expecting too much. The weather looked right. So we made a run out, and she was kind to us. It was tough at first. It was tough to find the conditions. It's not always how Nick Trujillo, calls it Core Island. She didn't spread her legs wide open for us. But once you find those conditions, it could be pretty rewarding. We didn't get our first solid bite till probably 11:30 a.m. We got to the island. We got to the island at 7:30.
Yeah.
So,
when you say solid bite, what do you mean?
Like, a bass over 4 pounds. We're kind of picking away at some small fish before in the morning, some small, cookie cutter, maybe 14, 15-inch bass. But, we're looking for those big trophy bass and trying to find big, we're in the hunt for that 10-pounder.
Right.
And that's what we try to do when we go out there. We could have fun all day catching, in the dink zone, but I'd rather catch maybe 5 big fish than 100 small fish.
I feel right now like you're saying what's inside of me.
He's like, get out of my mind.
No, we were out about a month ago, and a couple of the guys on board with us, I hooked them up with some flukes and some other stuff. And they're like, how come you're only throwing the trout? I said, because I only want one bite tonight, but I want that bite.
Yep. Yeah, there's a few guys we fish out there with that, like my buddy James Little, he'll be committed to the big weedless and just to get that one big bite, because the right one's going to bite it. And when it does, you just better hold on and hope you boat it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I wasn't ready. I
watched Charlie have some heartbreakers.
You got to be ready, man. You can't make those mistakes. I've had my hand slip off the reel, not ready, just not ready.
Sometimes you do everything right. Like this last weekend, I hooked into a good one on the trout, and it just instantly turned sideways. I felt it hit the rock and snap, and it's like there's nothing.
What pound leader were you fishing?
I was fishing 30.
Oof.
You talked about that in contestant.
The minimum now I'll fish is 50 minimum.
No,
50.
No, what happens when you're stuck?
What do you mean? On the weedless?
Yeah.
I hardly ever get stuck.
I'm fishing heavy.
You're probably fishing a lot different than I am. I think you're probably slow rolling on the bottom a bit.
Slow rolling on the bottom, and I'm fishing in heavy rocks.
Okay.
So I will get stuck. And it's like I get where I'm like, okay, I got to break this off.
Yeah.
And that'll be multiple times a night where usually 3 or 4, I'm like, okay, I have to break myself off. And it's hard on 30.
I bet. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially
mostly
when you're pulling, when your bait's wedged in between 2 rocks.
Yeah.
And you're just pulling straight at it. There's no abrasion.
No, yeah, you're stuck. That's got to be tough.
So yeah, I'd like to go to 50.
Try
We're
40.
gonna have to hit 50.
The funny thing is, I was actually just telling Luke because he was like, "Hey, Daniel, let's go out. Conditions are looking good." And I went, "I'm taking 50." Because he was like, "You're not allowed on my boat unless you're rigged up, ready to go, line tied, reels are washed, a smile on your face." And I'm like, "I'm tying up 50. I'm done." You know what I mean? We won't have to have this conversation again, Luke. 50 all day.
50 pound all day. Yeah, make sure to have that next time.
There you go.
So you were mentioning that you didn't get into a solid bite till about 11. Now, what do you think was different between getting to Clemente and 11? Was it just the time of day was different, so the bigger ones were coming out to play, or did you change up specifically?
No, probably had to do with the tidal movement that particular day. It was that giant king tide, and we're moving towards the bulk of the high. I think we got there right around the tip of the high, so it was. I mean, it was flooded there. We're getting tight into spots that we normally couldn't get into. You know, I mean, we're taking my friend's 26-foot boat into 8 feet of water, and that's on the backside of Clemente. Near all the riprap and the rocks and boilers. So we're getting in pretty tight, and I think just as that movement started coming out, the fish started getting a little more active. Kind of gets them triggered, a little more movement. So that was probably the key part. But you kind of that island always tends to typically bite late. I've been fishing that island religiously for probably the last 10 years. And so you start to get to see the patterns of what happens, after a while. And generally what we've been seeing the last few years is it bites after 10. It has to do with tidal movement, current, where the current's at, water clarity, stuff like that. But that's what triggered that bite. And then I think the big one started. What our theory is, the big ones got in really shallow because the tide was so high. Because they definitely, we did a few spot checks on the kelp, like in 40, 50 feet. It just wasn't biting. So they're going to be one or two places on the beach or in the kelp.
Yeah. So that's kind of funny that you said with the tide coming in, it kind of pushed them into. That's something that Luke and I found out last week as we were fishing. Again, spotties and calico, tomato. But it's that clearance of water that those king tides bring. They're not going to be out in the middle when there's so much water next to the walls and all the docks. So it's kind of interesting to see that when you go, they're in holding really close to this wall because they can almost ambush bait now. But on top of that, we also have a question: is what gear ratio do you use for your reel?
Most of my reels are all Lexa 300s, and they're all 6-to-1 ratio.
Okay, because you were talking about how Luke probably fishes different, which is just dredging it nice and slow, cutting through that rock. Are you just more steady wind? Are you changing the cadence up, pause, fast? Are you cranking it? What's up?
It just really depends. This particular day, I was fishing a lot of 7-inch lead head with a 2-ounce war lead head. So something like that when we're fishing that shallow, 2 ounce. By the time we cast up, we're probably in 3 feet of water. So we're pretty much bouncing it, getting it back, kind of crank and wind, just keeping contact with the bottom, the rocks. Sometimes if I see a stringer kind of hanging off a boiler, I might just pitch it off the side of it and just fast wind it back. So it's a very versatile bait. I actually got one of the biggest fish of that day doing that. There was this particular stringer I saw. It looked a little dark and dingy over there. I tossed it over, let it hit the water, and I just wound back as fast as I could, and it just got annihilated. So it just really depends. Like the weedless baits, when I'm fishing that style, I'm almost fishing as fast as I can wind that reel.
Interesting.
Yeah, very, very fast, which, I've learned from some of the greats like Mike Lane and Scotty Penthal. In my opinion, those two guys are probably some of the best weedless fishermen in the Calico game. There's quite a few of them. Matt Koch is a great weedless fisherman. But, That's who I learned from and looked up to when I was learning to fish the weedless. So those guys tend to fish it really fast. I mean, I don't fish it as fast as them, but I kind of change it up and will fish it fast until I get that reaction bite. Because 9 times out of 10, that's all reaction bite. You just want to piss those bass off. And so I'll start really fast. And if they're not biting, I've also learned from a friend, Chris Bona. They used to run Bass Knuckles. He taught me a lot out there too. Like sometimes they want it as slow as you can wind it. So you got to kind of change it up. If they're not biting fast, they might bite it slow. So it's good. Just one of those things you got to start what you know and then kind of work backwards from there and change it up.
Yeah,
but
I think that's the problem I have is speeding up.
It was all a lead head bite that day.
No weedless?
No. I think my buddy Jay got a few on the weedless to go, but nothing significant. So once we found that pattern with the bigger 7-inch baits on a 2-ounce lead head, we just kind of kept that cadence and kept that bait going. You know, a lot of the guys that we mess around with, you know, will always talk shit and be like, "Oh, nice dumpster diving," but we're fishing in 4 or 5 feet of water and we're pretty much winding it back pretty quick, like it's a submerged weedless. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know, with a few pauses here and there to kind of get that strike going. But that's how we do things up in there.
So what do you think's different between, you were talking about a weedless versus a leadhead, and I know what's different about them physically as far as how to rig them, but I'm having trouble thinking of what would be different as far as enticing a bite.
I think because you get that erratic, if I'm swimming it along and then I have 2 ounces of lead in 8-10 feet of water, and then I give it a pause and it has that dramatic sink, and then I get it back up, you know, it's kind of doing this, where the weedless kind of has to flutter a bit, get down there. It's a little too slow, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Yeah, because 2 ounces versus 3/4 of an ounce, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a different body roll also?
There is definitely, yeah, especially on some of my baits. Like my 7-inch swim bait, it loves a 1.5 ounce up to 3 ounce. If I fish a 1 ounce on it, the body rolls too much for me. I don't like a lot of body wobble. Most of my baits, I designed them to have very little body wobble and mostly tail action. So I like that tail to move, and then the body just to barely have a little wobble.
I love how you said your baits love.
So if you could go heavier with a belly weight, how heavy would you want to go?
Right?
1 ounce would be good.
Okay, cool. I have that in the making.
There's a guy, actually. I don't know if I have him here. Back in the SWBA days, this guy, Chris Loba, he's a San Diego guy. He was actually making some they're 1 ounce or maybe a little heavier. I still have a few. They actually swam really good, but he only made maybe a couple hundred of them, gave them away, and that was the last I seen of him.
Don't worry. You can remember my name because I'm getting those going.
Get that jig going.
Huh?
Get that jig going. Start making them.
Yeah, I actually, my Anthony from Black Flag, who does all my CAD design, he texted me the other day. He's like, "Hey, the CAD work's all done. We just got to 3D print them. So I'm going to print up some prototype kind of molds, get those going, pour those, test them out, see if there can't be an improvement, work on the mold one more time, and then we'll probably run into production."
Oh, nice.
So the cool part is, you know, I wouldn't go much smaller than like an 8/0 on like a 1 ounce or even higher. But an 8/0 usually fits mostly everything, I want to say, or you can squeeze an 8/0 into stuff. So I want to play around.
I'll squeeze an 8/0 into anything.
It sounds horrible.
Right?
Okay, we're going to have to somebody cut that. No, so what I wanted to get to play with is whether or not we can fit, you know, 1.25 ounces on an 8/0 or 1.5 ounces.
Yeah.
That will really allow, like you were saying, those drastic dips a little bit more so, but while continuously staying weedless, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to bring this up because Daniel's dad is right. Daniel doesn't promote his stuff often enough. This is one of Daniel's 8/0s, but what's awesome is he makes the 3/4 and a 4/0, which is really bitching for going heavy on a fluke or a small swim bait.
Yeah.
And there's no one doing that heavy on that small right now.
Well, so Luke and I have played around with sizes and as variance in hooks and weights. The three,
and that's a 4-aught on a trout, by the way.
Yeah, it's pushing it right there. I feel like I almost don't want to go to 3/4 on a 4-aught.
Yeah,
unless you're fishing those skinny baits like that, just because the clearance, you start losing that clearance, which will end up, losing those fish. So I feel like the 1/2 ounce is kind of the wiggle room for the 4-aughts on the highest. And then if you want to go higher and with a smaller hook, you have to go probably 3/4 ounce on the 6-aught and then like an ounce on the 8-aught and so on and so on.
Because that gap probably gets pretty tight right away, huh?
Yeah, it does.
I just get a razor blade and slice the belly a little more.
Yeah, you have to get a little bit more creative with it, but there's still that idea of you want it to be proficient for people who don't want to cut the belly. Yeah, you don't want to make a product with only Luke in mind, because then it's going to suffice for one person rather than the 99 population. However, if it works for Luke, it will also work for everybody else. Because
if I could do it, any idiot can use it.
Anybody can do it. So, do you only fish your baits when you go out?
No, I don't. I fish a variety of stuff. I fish some of Pearl stuff. Me and him are buddies. We both always bounce ideas off each other. He fishes some of my stuff. I fish some of his. Sometimes, some Berkeley Gulp comes into play sometimes, man.
Can't go wrong with that.
Gulp it out,
Can't go wrong with that.
That stuff's like live bait sometimes, man.
I had a day so rough a couple weeks back that we opened that up.
What's that?
I had a day that was so rough a couple weeks back that we opened up the Berkeley Gulp. It's like it's in the back of the boat, break in case of emergencies, and it still didn't help. So at least I know it wasn't me.
Exactly. No, yeah. So when I used to fish tournaments, it just can't be all your stuff. You got to be very versatile. I'll throw hard baits. I'll throw soft baits. Different. I throw Brian Sanders LK baits. It just depends. Every bait has different action, and will draw attention in certain conditions.
You ever use the dark sleeper?
I have, not for Calico. I've done it in the bay the very little times I fish spotties, I'll use that bait.
So tell us, do you like fishing spotties?
You know what? It's starting to grow me more. It was when we
you don't have to say that if you don't want to.
Yeah, you don't have to lie. Don't lie to us.
Fish spotties?
But it's just so boring in the bay sometimes. You know what I mean?
It is.
Luke's on the same boat as you. He's like, Calico's any day,
So,
right, Luke?
The thing is, it's a completely different thing.
I'm going to tell a little story about how Daniel makes it a little more exciting. So I end up, Daniel and Charlie come running up to me, and they're like kids. And I go, what the hell's going on? And Daniel goes, I'm not going to say the name. I jumped the fence over to where I'm not supposed to be. And I just caught the biggest spotty of my life. And I panicked and ran up to the fence and said, "Here, Charlie, take it." He passed the fish over the fence to Charlie so that he could hop the fence back, because he knew he couldn't get caught in there taking pictures with it.
Oh, man.
So it can be very exciting.
Was that giant one you just landed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I just love him running up to Charlie with the fish and going, "Here, take it."
Shaking at the same time. He's like, he can't believe it. He's like, holy shit.
I saw it eat my my
and that's what stoked me the most, man. He told me he actually told me he saw it eat it. Wow. Sorry, Daniel.
No, you're good. So my thing is, like, I like looking at how my baits work, because then I go, oh, maybe if I do this, maybe if I do that. So it wasn't more than like 5 feet away from me, and you're kind of at a higher angle. So I'm like looking at it, and I give it this pop, and I just see this white belly just swirl on it, and I'm like, there's no way I just did that. What? And so then I give it kind of another pop, and it just loads my rod up. I'm like, oh! And it just starts shooting off. It's like, oh, I know I'm hooked. I'm out of here. And so I have to get it up. I didn't realize how big it was. I was like, oh, that's a big one. But, oh, this is fun. This is fun. I landed it, and I'm like freaking out. And I'm like, I can't scream. It's 5:30 a.m. I just hopped the fence, and I'm like panicking. What do I do? So I just handed it to Charlie. I'm like, hold this. I'll be right back. And then so I like hopped the fence, and Charlie is like, what are you doing? What's going on? And I'm just over here just like thinking about hopping the fence to get back over. And then we're both screaming. Luke is 1.5 miles away, and Charlie and I are just absolutely going crazy.
Oh man, I bet.
Oh my gosh. And plus on top of all that, it's like 40 degrees. Charlie and I are literally freezing on top of like trying to hop fences, trying to contain our excitement for all of this. Oh my gosh. It was
good.
But you know what? They handled it right. They kept it quiet. I was in a different situation with some buddies where we all started screaming, ah! And the cops came. And I'm like, all right, from now on, when something cool happens, we don't scream like Disney princesses. We can do quiet fingers, but there's no yelling anymore.
That was awesome,
man.
Luke, was that your 9-pounder that you guys were screaming about?
No, that was the same day, but it was later and at a different place, and we'd caught a 4-pounder.
Because I was going to say for the 9-pounder, I would be screaming just as much.
Oh, dude.
So,
the 9-pounder, it was like we couldn't talk. I was like, guys, I think this one might go 7.
This one might go 7. It goes 9. I love when you undershoot a fish. That's always the best.
Did you weigh that spotty?
You know what? The only
I told him, I'm like, let me run to Luke and get the weight. Let me go. He's like, nah, we got to put it back. But he's like shaking, He's like, nah, we got to, because it's a nice big one, and you don't want to have those big ones out for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to treat her nice. I want to catch her again. Frankly, I don't want to, just sack her up right there and be like, woo, PB, let's go home and eat this thing.
He's forever going to be in that spot. Have you ever had that moment?
What's that?
Have you ever had that moment where you're
screaming like a princess?
Oh, dude! I mean, go Calico bass fishing me every time. It's like that. Right? I mean, when we see wolf packs and brown clouds, like we're like a bunch of little
dude. That must be insane.
I mean, you got 40 to 45-year-old men, giggling like little schoolgirls. It's just insane. I mean. Especially when you just see these brown clouds, wolf packs, you got weedless bite going off, you got triple hookups, double hookups. It just gets insane. It's just so it just releases so many endorphins,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The tug is the drug.
The tug is the drug.
It's like being a kid. It's like being a kid again, and like opening up that one Christmas present that you wanted all year, but your parents were like lying to you about they're not going to get it, and you're like, I got it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, some trips I come home and I can't even talk because we're laughing so much. My voice is all hoarse.
Yeah.
So before I caught my PB spotty, Charlie and I we were filming. So what we do in the morning is we'll try and do as much filming so that we can actually put out a YouTube video of just us kind of analyzing the water, but also just having fun. So Charlie and I are crying in the back of my car because we're filming this absolute nonsense. And we are genuinely crying, thinking that Luke has to watch this and then edit it. And so it's like, it just snowballs because we're like, we don't have to edit this. We don't have to edit this. And so we just get sillier and sillier and sillier.
Oh, it just got out of hand.
Just crying. We're crying. And this is like a 10-minute video on my phone. Like, I can't wait until Luke is forced to watch this. And we just started breaking down. So the fact that we actually caught this body on top of that just made the day just cherry.
That's awesome, man.
So good.
So do you ever fish at night with your boat, or are you just in the day?
Once in a great while. Mostly most of the day. Mostly I'm a weekend warrior.
Like what?
my normal job, I could work an 8-hour day. I could work a 15-hour day. Just depends. You know, when you're in management, you got to kind of just stay until the job's done. So, I mean, once in a while, I'll hit the harbor with Pearl. You know, we'll take his skiff out, go in his backyard, and go through the port and go way back there. You know, and mess around and catch spotties and sand bass. You know, he has his little routine he does. But for the most part, I mean, back when I first started fishing, man, the night thing was our jam. This was 15 years ago. You know, maybe longer, when we really started getting into fishing the wall, you know, fishing local. My buddy Jay had a little well craft, and every, you know, other night we're out there buying beers at the store and freaking drifting the wall, fishing till 2, 3 in the morning. You know, so that was a jam for a while, but last 10 years, no, not too much, just the port here and there.
Yeah, that's what I got to start figuring out, because I'm mostly nighttime, so we start fishing during the day, and I'm like, I don't even know what to do. Do they even like it slow during the day? I just drag this thing real slow across the bottom. Does that work when the sun's out?
It might.
Maybe.
Find a shadow.
Find a shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, when I do have a chance, and I get an invite with Luke, like I'll take it. But I'm always on foot, man. I don't have a boat. You know.
Yeah.
I'm always on foot patrol. You know, I'm a spotty chaser. You know,
right on. Hell yeah.
Occasional sand bass, maybe a calico here and there. You know.
Yep.
But it's mostly spotties, man. That's my drug. You know.
That's good. I mean, there's a lot of guys into that right now, man. You know, you got all those. I just listened to that Spotty Roundtable the other day on Casting Crank. It was pretty informative, for sure.
Yeah.
It actually kind of got a little fire into my ass to want to go do it more. You know? I mean, I fished spotties in San Diego Bay, Mission Bay for tournaments, and it was super fun. I mean, when they're biting, it's fun, but when it's not biting, you're like, you know,
where are they?
What now? I mean, that's when you're going through the bag. You know?
You're like, all right, how small of a gulp do I have?
Damn, I
can't go out at 3-inch. So, are you doing tournaments, or are you done with that?
No, I kind of took a break from it. You know, back when we were doing them, there was a lot of no boundaries, so you go wherever you want. So, you know, I'm an island guy. I love fishing the island. You know, Catalina, Clemente, Santa Barbara Island. I don't care. I just like making the run. I like the journey, the adventure, you know, and it's a lot of guys didn't like the fact because, you know, there is bigger fish out there. I think not necessarily bigger fish. There's just an abundance of fish, not really bigger. I think there's more double-digit fish on the beach than there is the islands. Some people might disagree with that, but there's definitely a lot more 4s and 5s out there. So a lot of the guys
it's a lot less picked over.
Coming back with 25-pound bags. You know, 5.5s, you know, maybe a 6 or 7 in the mix. And so they're like, well, it's not fair. But it is fair, because we have about 2.5 hours less of fishing than everybody else does because of the run.
They're way back.
You know, so we're very time constricted. So once the tournaments kind of went to cater towards the bay more, which I totally get, because they wanted to grow the sport, and not everybody has a boat that can run to the island. You know, or the gas money. You know, it's very expensive, especially these days. But guys since they want to grow the sport, you know, they kind of cater to local more, which is totally cool. But it's just not my jam. You know, if I'm going to spend the day away from my family and kid, I'd rather be out the island, you know, making a time out of it instead of being stressed out about catching 5 spotties or a mixed bag.
Yeah.
You know, so for now, I mean, no. If they ever bring back no boundaries, I'd love to jump back into it. You know, there's talk of some big dollar tournaments coming up that are going to be open boundaries, supposedly. So if those ever hit, I'd love to jump in on it, but, you know, and gamble my money. But until
you hear that, Luke?
Just fish for fun more.
Let's go, Luke. I know.
Well, you know, it's kind of funny, because it's kind of similar to what me and Daniel were talking about. We did a couple derbies last year. They said, what do you think? Should we do some derbies this year? And I said, you know, to be honest, if we're going to do a spotty derby, I'm not going to invite anybody, and I'm just going to hit it really hard on my boat by myself and try to win the thing. And rather than try to win it, I'd rather just invite 2 or 3 people to come out, and we'll have a blast.
Exactly.
It's always a good time.
Oh, hell yeah, man. It's water therapy, man. You know, we all have issues in our lives and problems, and for those 12 hours, 14 hours I'm gone out in the water, all those problems seem to go away, you know. And all I think about is catching fish and being with my buddy or whoever else is with us fish at the time. And we're just joking, laughing, and all those problems tend to go away for that short amount of time, you know.
Yep, you could say that again, man.
Well, you know, I was describing it to someone once. They said, "Well, you know, what is it that makes all the problems go away?" I said, when you're out to sea, there's so much that can go wrong that you're paying so much attention to things that you don't have time to be in your head.
No,
even when you're going over there, like if you're a good passenger, you're not just chilling.
Yeah.
You're also watching. You're making sure there's not something the captain's missing. You're acting like you're hours away from help.
Oh, and yeah. I mean, things can go wrong in a heartbeat.
Yeah. You know? And
sometimes we're running it when it's still dark, and especially after a storm, it can be very dangerous, man. I mean, there's been times there was a time where we were doing a tournament when it was still open boundaries. We left from Mission Bay. It was pretty gnarly out. Only 3 boats had the balls to go to Clemente, and I was one of them. And on the way back, I took my same trail line back, and I saw this huge railroad tide out in the middle of the ocean. If we would have hit that morning, game over, man. You know, so you just never know. You got to have everybody on their toes, especially when we're fishing tight to the beach. You got to have your head on a swivel. You know, you got sets rolling, and you got to be ready to get the fuck out of there real fast. It's
I've heard,
but it's not your grandpa's fishing trip, you know.
Exactly.
I've heard so many stories about that one rogue wave when you're in close that just, you know, flip the boat. You guys are out there. You don't know who's coming to save you. There's nobody coming to save you. Yeah,
it's not like a kayak, right? It's not like you could just flip the kayak over and jump back on.
No, man.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
there's definitely a lot of preparation and planning before you go. You just don't jump in and go, I'm going to Clemente today, you know. I mean, we have dry bags, we have safety stuff on board, our life vest on or near us at all times. Main motor running at all times, you know. There's just a lot of stuff you learn over time and through experience and through others that have maybe made a mistake, and you try and learn from that.
So I have a question for you in regards to, I was listening to your podcast with Nick, the swivel. You talked about a swivel.
Oh, yeah.
That you use on the baits. I'm curious about that.
A swivel?
Yeah. Were you talking about a clip or a swivel?
Oh, probably a clip.
Oh, okay.
That's funny. That's funny because I was thinking during it, I was like, I've never heard of putting swivel on a bait. I was listening to that too the other day.
I'm not even going to lie. I looked it up. I was like, what? A swivel?
No, probably a clip. I'm always messing around with clips. Sometimes I fish them, sometimes I don't. I've been fishing them a lot lately on the weedless and the lead head. It just gives it a little more action, I think. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
But lately, the last year, I fished a lot of clips. But
what's your go-to flip?
I use one from Tactical Angler. There's a company called Tactical Angler out there that this guy Sam turned me on to a while back, and I think he had a connection, and I traded him a bunch of baits for a bunch of clips. But
can you send me a link to that, and I'll post it tomorrow?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they make a bunch of other stuff too, like poppers and little irons and stuff like that.
I'm a big clip fanatic. I love having a clip on. I've got ADD, so I'm like changing baits all the time. And the funny thing is, when I go on charters, captains will be like, especially when we're in Florida, captains will be like, yeah, you know, we're probably going to need to get those clips off of there. I'll say, hey, you know what? If you guys are all hooking up and I'm not, we'll start talking about it. But I've never been on the trip where we've cut them off.
Yeah.
I told the one captain, I said, you know, we fish the most pressured freshwater ponds in the country. And I hook fish with clips on. He goes, oh, is the visibility pretty good? I go, no, they can't see that fucking clip.
Now, talking about clips, you know, we were out with Luke one day, and one of his clips popped open, and he had a little theory. You know, he said the fish might have like opened it with his mouth. I said no. I said it was just a big ass fucking fish, and it broke your fucking clip, and that's it. You know. But he was
the Calico bit it, turned it into a knot, sent it back as a little love note. That's all.
He untied it with his tongue.
What pound test was it?
30.
No, the clip, I think.
Oh, the clip was like a 75. That's why I don't think he was that big enough to open it.
Yeah, these are 50-pound.
Oh, those are the ones I use.
And then I'll even use 100-pound ones for jigs for bluefin tuna.
Yeah, I've got bigger ones for bluefin, but this is what I use.
Oh, okay.
And it's 75. So what I think happened is the fish bit it, and it popped it up and over.
Okay.
Which has only ever happened to me once, maybe twice.
Well, I like to say it was a big fish.
Yeah, but big enough to straighten out a 75-pound clip would have broke my 30-pound first.
This style's more like almost like a paper clip.
Yeah, I've got those too.
Yeah. Those are the ones I like.
I've had my baits actually fly off of those. Now, yeah,
you weren't using them right.
Of course.
I've never had any malfunctions.
Really? Of course I wasn't using it right because I flipped it over and, I said, hey, okay, so I'm supposed to tie the line here. That goes on here and it's supposed to be like this. Okay, so I have it perfectly correct. Okay. And then I still proceeded to fish it wrong. No, I've casted those things out and then I go, oh, there goes my lure. Multiple times. Like I've even used the smaller ones for just bay fishing for spotties and sand bass. I did a little pitch and I went, oh, there goes my Jika rig.
You probably had it upside down.
You got to try spinning on it first.
Oh, and
you got to lick it. You got to lick it
positive
first.
Reinforcement. You're going to go catch a fish. No, I don't know. I've had those a couple of malfunctions one too many times for me to be like, man, these are good.
You're over it.
Yeah, and again, it's probably just me because, like you said, you've never had that happen, and I know there's probably a number of people that haven't had that happen. So I need somebody to reassure me that it's not just me. So in the comments, make sure let me know because I feel like I'm the only one here and I'm alone. I need somebody to come save me.
You may be alone.
I know.
Salty Bastard says he watched you cast off an A-rig.
Ooh. No. I got the A-rig caught. I didn't cast it off. That's different.
Do you think it got caught because you were using your clip wrong?
It got caught because I wasn't using a clip. And that is another conversation for you kids out there. Clips or no clips and safety clips. But please ask your parents, not us.
I'm curious. And I want to ask, man. I wanted to wait till the end, but I guess I can't. How do you come up with your colors, man? Like,
that's where I was going.
Not how you choose them. Like how dude? You're
lots of it is just basic match the hatch kind of stuff. I'm the match the hatch kind of person. If I see a lot of bait fish somewhere, I'm gonna just pour some bait fish looking colors. And I always like to contrast a lot. I mean, being my background's in printing and color management and color theory, and I like a lot of contrast.
As soon as you said printing, that was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I work with ink guys a lot, so there's a lot of specific color matches and blends. So I take that and mix and match colors to kind of contrast each other. That's why I tend to pour a lot of the. If you notice, I'll pour like chunky looking colors so I can get that contrast in the water and that light to refract off the bait a certain way. And then some of it's just, I just get, just if they look good together, I'll throw them together, But for the most part, like me personally, I fish like 3 colors. That's it. I'm not a big color guy at all. There's 3 colors I know that work well for me at any island or the beach, and that's all I fish. Where but I know a lot of the bay guys and local guys, they like a lot of these crazy colors. So sometimes you just got to please the masses, and pour these crazy bright colors that work in certain situations. But that's just where I kind of get it from. And like a lot of it is the whole color theory with water and light and how it absorbs, and certain colors turn a different color when it gets a certain amount of meters underwater. So stuff like that.
Yeah. As soon as you said printing, I was like, oh, someone's been looking at the Pantone book.
Yeah, that's all I do.
No, but I mean, I'm a crazy color guy, so I love throwing crazy colors. My hermano Nick, Nick Mora, him.
Yeah.
He makes some amazing color jigs. Yeah. Shout outs to him if he's in here. You can't see the comments.
I poured up a color scheme for him a while back and made a few for myself and just got a little creative with it. And I used them at Clemente, and they actually bit the shit out of it. And it was a color combo that I would never make for that island.
Now, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, and I hope I don't get Nick in trouble. I went to Nick's shop, and I was looking around, and then I went, oh, I can't look at those. I'm not supposed to look at those. No, those are fine. They're for T and I, but you can look at them. And I went, man, Gary's doing 4-color pours out here?
Yeah. It was a pain. It was a pain in the ass, and that will probably never happen again. I don't even like pouring 3 colors, man.
But they come out so beautiful.
My gosh.
Like, Nick has some amazing color schemes in his jigs. Like awesome. And I throw most of them because I love the colors. I'm a little like we just talked about earlier. I'm a little schoolgirl, man. I'm just like, damn, man. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, Nick's been getting down with those airbrushings and all that paint schemes, man. He's really
most definitely.
Dude, I saw those 4 colors. Go ahead, Luke.
What's that?
I'm going to go back a little bit to your colors and say one of the things I love is that you're not afraid of flake. Some of your stuff has so much flake. It's like, oh, that's how flake's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's why I like to size it up differently and try and kind of make it look chunky, because that light hits it, and I think it just refracts great, especially a few feet under the water.
And you'll even have the black flake in there, which I love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Eric Landenstein joined and asked what the J. Jones Sheephead Special is, and that's the Berkeley Gulp.
Yeah, he doesn't realize we've already been talking about that.
That Berkeley Gulp, man.
Oh, speaking of that, somebody asked about this earlier. Something Brown, but he said, when is 3D printing going to get introduced to the bait world? And I would just like to see that it's already here. All my new molds are actually 3D printed by my friend Anthony, Black Flag Fishing and Stealth 3D. He does awesome organic CAD designing. And what he does is he makes me the master plates like that, and then I'll pour silicone, and then I'll get the molds.
Nice.
So just a small plug for Anthony. But I thought it was fun. I don't see a lot of 3D printing out there as well, but I think it's becoming more popular.
A lot of all of my baits were all handmade by me at one point. I did have them tuned up by by Ro. So Ro took all my originals. He 3D scanned them. He tuned them up for me, made them true, and then he gave me some 3D printed samples, and that's how I made my molds from there. But mine are all 100% sculpted by me, 10, 12 years ago. They just got refined maybe about 5 years ago, and definitely made them, worthy enough to throw in the tackle shops.
Yeah, I think Ro did a lot of the big guy stuff. I know he does Piz's stuff.
Yeah, but it's definitely all my stuff, all my handwork. I still have all the original stuff, but he just refined them for me, and I didn't let him make my molds because I know how to do that. Actually, Mike Stembridge helped me a lot making molds and how to make them for longevity, and taught me a lot of that part of it. Mike's a very knowledgeable.
Yeah. The cool part about 3D printing and getting them all done like that is you see this hand-carved mold that, has human error and sloppiness. It's really funny when, I thought I did as straight at work as I could, and then everything looks so good, sanding and then more sanding, and then Anthony CAD designs it and prints it, and I go, oh my god, this is like a whole different bait. Like, this is symmetrical. Then you're like holding it up, and you're like, oh, no wonder.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's fun though, making your own baits and then progressively making them better and better and better, and then just being able to see that progression is something else for sure.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's just might as well use technology, man. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All our time is valuable. It's like, why try and spend all this time making it perfect when it's not going to be? You know, let these machines and computer programs do it, and it just gets you to the game faster. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, especially like you said, where you've carved it first, so you have the human element of design, and you're just using it for the refinement.
Yep, exactly. And it actually helped, you know, because a lot of guys were like, "Oh, it's not going to swim the same." No, it swims the same, if not a little better.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, you hear that? You hear that, Charlie? It swims exactly the same, if not better.
I'm true. So I fish Daniel's leech like in the harbor, you know, when I'm not throwing a jig.
What do you do to his leech?
You did what? To who?
What do you do to his leech in the harbor?
I throw a leech in the harbor.
Endless leech.
But I like his old one. I haven't caught anything on the new one, you know, and the old one to me is like the best. It's good, but I probably haven't fished it how I'm supposed to. You know?
Have you put in time on the new one? Because I never seen you fishing it.
I haven't. So that's probably why I haven't getting bit.
I haven't caught shit on this. You know what? In fact, I haven't even thrown this thing.
This bait sucks. It's so bad. I don't even use it.
No, it's not. It doesn't suck.
God.
I told him the other day. I said, I got a whole bag of Daniel's old leeches. I'll trade you for all his new ones.
And you know, and he gave me a bunch. I mean, I got a bunch of them, you know, and he didn't prepackage them for me to make them pretty. He just gave me a big bag of leeches. He's like, here. I'm like, damn, thanks, man.
It was all the blams.
Actually,
don't tell Charlie that.
And you know what, dude? The Blems fish just
dude, the one-offs are the best.
My PB is a Blem.
Yeah.
I called up Bill from Sudden Impact, and I was like, how many of these can I get?
Yeah, so
Charlie's hung up about the past, you know. It's just who he is. Yeah. You know, he's always in his head and all that stuff. No, so I've come a long way from where I started. And so Charlie's been there from day one. And so he's seen a lot of these colors come and go just because it's like they were a mistake. You know, they were me reusing plastic and getting 2 or 3 and then coming out to a really unique color and then double pouring those kind of things, come up with something else. And then Charlie comes up to me and goes, hey, I want that color again. And I'm like, that was an accident. That was some magic that happened.
I mean, I've even been in a jam where, you know, because of course as a bait maker, you never have baits for yourself. So I've been in a jam where I've grabbed my pores of one solid olive-looking color from warming up the mold, you know, because that's all I have.
Yeah.
They get bit just as good.
I was going to say, one of the ones that I get bit on all the time is just a solid color.
Yep.
You know, I'm a big fan of solid colors for sure, but man, do I love 2 and 3 and even 4 color pores. But I saw that bait you did, and I was like, Nick, you asked him to do 4 colors, and he's like, yeah, it's super cool, right? You know, as a consumer, he's like, it's so cool. And as a bait maker, I went, oh, Gary hated this. This was probably absolute hell for him to pay. And he's like, and Nick just goes, yeah, Gary said never again.
So, Charlie, we're going to start asking Daniel for 4 color pores.
Right? We're going to be like, we need 4 color pores. The brighter, the better.
On the leech.
The brighter, the better.
Perfect laminations and mixes. Yeah. Now, you guys can You guys can start pouring your own baits.
It's definitely time consuming.
Yeah, it's definitely a level of skill that I have not mastered. I am still going after 3 color pours, making sure everything else is correct. The mold is warm, the plastic is at the same temperature, yada, yada, yada. But over time, you get better at, I guess, working with variables as well as setting yourself up for success. So it's like I have a hot plate now. I also have a heat gun, which can help re-give life to those, to those multiple pours.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to work as quick. You have to work quick, but you have the hot plate to keep the mold warm. But if it's too hot, the flake all melts down to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the heat gun to re-rubberize it and all that stuff. So there's more wiggle room as you get more experience, but still not pouring 4 colors for you two ever.
So I'm going to ask the question that Daniel's afraid to ask, and I don't want an answer. And if you don't want to answer ever, forget about the question. But Daniel is dying to know where you get your glitter and flake from. So if later on you want to contact him,
that is true.
Tell him about that. But
you know what?
I ask. He's afraid.
I have no problem sharing, man. All my stuff is from Lurcraft. And in my opinion, they have the best products. They have the higher temperature glitters. There is some glitters I'll get at Michael's, the craft store shit, but that stuff tends to burn out fast. There's some stuff I researched online. If you try, I'm trying to find a good red glitter because that's so sensitive to heat. So you really have to time it perfectly. And I'm not the type of guy there that has a thermometer and temp gun. I just kind of just do it all by feel and put some of this in there and some of that in there and hope it don't burn. It's mostly by feel for me, so I know when to add the red and when to pour it. But MF has some decent stuff. I know the guy used to be a dickhead to deal with sometimes, so I kind of quit going through him. But that was during the pandemic. But for the most part, most of my stuff's from Lurcraft.
So I started using Dead-On Plastics red glitter. It's held up pretty well for me. Like you, I do everything by feel, by sight, and all that. I've gotten pretty used to going, that's about 320. Okay, this is about 280. But again, it's all based upon repetitiveness.
Yeah.
But there's times where I'll hit 400 by accident for sure, and the red flake does hold up pretty well.
It doesn't shrivel on you.
Well, again, I try not to go higher than 350.
Yeah,
but at 350 and in that range, it hasn't shriveled up. So
okay.
Not that
Try it.
Not that I know. I'll have to pay attention, then I'll get back to you again. Or I might just do a heat test for you.
There you go.
Well, actually, I'm making green pumpkin red right now. We'll see.
Oh, there you go. Don't burn it.
My PB Spotty came on a my old PB came on one of Daniel's slugs that was red with red flake. And so I'm now very partial to the red flake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, red's one of my go-tos.
It's actually
red flake, and we had a gold spinner on the gold blade on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of Jeff's from Salty Bastards' favorite color. It's a brown with clear, a lot of heavy on the red and black flake, just to create that clear body but red atmosphere with the brown back. And I mean, how much did that Spotty weigh, Luke?
I think it was 2.7, but it was only 16 inches. So it was just a football.
How much did your 17 weigh?
It didn't even hit 2. It was 1.9.
Holy moly. That was a 17?
Yeah, what's funny, though, is it's like, well, which one's the PB? Because Spotty tournaments are usually done in inches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Your 17's the PB?
The 17's the longest, the 16's the heaviest.
Yeah, but Spotties are not the same as calicos.
No.
Spotties are not the same as calicos. So how often do you go out?
Well, I mean, when it's come spring, I if I go out every weekend, I will. Just depends what's going on with the family, but I'd say a minimum twice a month. Maybe 3. Usually try and fish on Saturdays or Sundays. But once the tuna start rolling in and all starts going, it's that's what you save those sick days for during the week. Because when the iron's hot, you have to strike with those fish. So we tend to fish a couple times more during the summer months, the later fall and summer when the bluefin are out. I kind of try and be well-rounded in everything, just not in the calico bass fishing, and once the bluefin roll around, we've been paying a lot of attention to those and chasing those fucking things.
So are you doing the bluefin on artificial?
Yeah, all if we could cast to it or troll for it.
What reel do you like with that?
I use a lot of stuff from Accurate. The Turn 500s. I have a Dauntless 500, and then the trolling stuff. I have a big ATD 30. But
when you're casting at it, you're using an Accurate.
Yeah, or I have some Shimano 500 tranks.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do that with the poppers. I have a 400 Lexa too that I use. Just depends what for my 60-pound stuff. And like a little jig, I'll use the 400 Lexas. Anything bigger, I'll go to the 500 tranks. And then if I'm throwing iron at them or even a heavier popper, a bigger popper, I'll use the 500 turn. That turn too that has that braking system in it.
Oh, it's got the is that the double dogs?
It's not a double dog, but it is a double drag.
Double drag. There we go.
Yeah, they put a braking system in the newer turns, and I mean anybody could cast it. It's a conventional style reel, and you could cast it a mile.
That's the Accurate turns.
Yeah, very good reels.
So you pull up on a foamer. What are you grabbing for first?
Me, usually a popper, small popper, like
small popper, like 6 inches.
Like a 150 size, 150 size popper. I try that. I tend to try that first. If they're not on that and they're on that real micro stuff, then we'll go down to like a little couple gram mini jig.
Mm-hmm. Like a mega bait.
Yeah, like a mega bait style, maybe like a 40, 60 gram.
Mm-hmm.
We fished those a lot this last fall. Did fairly well, and then we trolled the Mad Mac too.
How'd you do on the Mad Mac?
Dude, we did great once we learned how to do it. I mean, it was a little learning curve, but our biggest fish this summer was little over 160 pounds.
That's big.
Yeah, it was giant. And trying to gaff that I gaffed it. And then once you gaff something that big, your buddy that caught it, because there's only 2 of us in the boat,
mm-hmm.
he needs to be ready to get another gaff in it. But when you're kind of spent from bringing it up, it's definitely it's hard to hold that thing, dude. It took all my might to hold it and not go overboard.
So you dress them right there on the boat too, or are you dressing that when you get back in?
No, I fully dress them out there. I take the time, treat them right, get them all gutted, gilled, throw them on ice. Learned a lot of tips from Eric Landensfein and Jimmy Decker. They have
I've watched this video a couple times on that.
Yeah, I watched it until I memorized how to dress those fuckers. And I tell you, the previous years, about 2 years ago, we didn't do that. We would do it at home, and the difference is night and day. So I mean, I can't stress enough. I mean, when we go fish those, we take 100 pounds plus of ice. You take a little bag of some rock salt, so it makes it into like a little frozen slurry. And then you just dress them there on the boat, and I mean, they're fucking. The meat is night and day difference when you get it home. And then I usually wait the next day until I start filleting them.
Let it get really firm.
It's all firm and nice, yeah.
So when can I pick some up?
You know what? I just canned the last of it I had that I didn't eat raw. So hit me up next fall.
Next fall.
This coming fall.
So when you're fishing Clemente, how often do you get the yellowtail bycatch?
Oh, pretty often. Yeah, I would say at least one's getting hooked a trip. It just depends, you know. But they'll hit the weedless, they'll hit the leadhead, A rig, the iron, because we're fishing the iron sometimes for Calico too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty often.
Do you ever see conditions change and go, "Oh, the game just changed. We're now targeting yellows"?
Sometimes,
or is it purely bycatch?
No, it's usually bycatch. I mean, I'll go there in the spring and target specifically yellows in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So like from probably I'll start like towards the end of April, like April to June, July. When I go there, I'll fish yellows from like 7 a.m. till 10 or 11. Then I'll fish bass. Because in my experience, the yellow bites first thing in the morning until about 11 when that tide changes. And then I don't want to wait for that second tide change, so I'll go fish bass until like 2 or 3 o'clock. But I'll specifically go target them in the morning. Like if we're fishing bass and we see birds working on the outside of us, then we know it's either bonita or yellowtail. So then we'll shoot over there if it's a frenzy, and then we'll throw some iron in there and see what it is. You know what I mean? So
is that typically what you're going to go? You're going to go to iron for yellowtail. You're not going to stick with what you're using for bass.
No. If I see a yellowtail boiler, I'm throwing an iron at it. Yeah, we always have an iron ready to go, a couple irons ready to go, just for that instance. I mean, even for bluefin. I mean, even this last trip, man, we saw so much bait and life on the mackerel bank. It wouldn't have surprised me if we saw a little foam or a bluefin pop up. You know, there's just so much life going on. The water was 62 degrees, man. It wasn't cold at all. You know, I was expecting to fish 58, 59 degree water this last trip, but it was 62 solid. Pushing
really?
63 almost, yeah. Very nice water
condition.
So
what I wanted to say is how many rods do you take, or hypothetically, what is your ideal setup, like rod wise and bait wise? You're like, all right, I'm going, let's say 2-3 people with you. How many rods are you bringing, and what is tied on?
Just for bass?
Clemente.
I'm taking at least minimum 5 to 6 rods. I'm going to have a weedless. I'm going to have a 1 ounce lead head with a 5-inch bait, a 2 ounce lead head with a 7-inch bait. And I'm going to have an iron, and then possibly a 3 ounce lead head with a bigger slug or a gulp.
3 ounce lead head.
And then I'll take a big 190 Lucky Craft.
Well, I couldn't help my ears perked up when you said bigger slug. Like what size? Maybe 6 inches?
Yeah, like 6 to 8.
Okay.
I have just recently started fishing the big slugs. It's different. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, even for rockfish, we'll fish those.
Yeah, I'm still trying to develop I've caught a couple on them, but I don't have the confidence yet.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I'm still learning it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know what? Tell you the truth, my 7-inch weedless bait, I pin a 4 to 6 ounce lead head on it, just those standard, like, you know, lead style for rockfish. Dude, it kills the rockfish. It's like, fuck, I didn't know this bait was that versatile. Send it down, and man, we're catching some nice reds at San Miguel Island.
Nice. It's interesting to hear the breakdown of what you'll take on each rod, because there's a couple things that are similar to what I'll take, but other than that, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's got me thinking of some things.
Well, that's good, because that's what, you know, we network and we bounce things off of each other and learn.
Yeah, you know what's really weird is I didn't hear you say anything about a Ned rig or like a 3-inch bait.
Actually,
are you not fishing the harbor? Am I on the wrong line or something?
I'll tell you what I call a Ned rig on my 3 ounce lead head. When my gulp curly tail gets bit off, I'll leave it on and call it the Ned rig, and they'll still eat it.
Well, it's because it's gulp. It's like fishing with live bait.
I know.
You got chunk bait on a Ned rig.
Yeah.
Chunk bait on a Ned rig.
You know, I'm really big into the Texas rig.
Yeah. Texas rig would work great out there. I don't try it. I haven't tried it out there, but I know I think T's fished that way out there before.
Mm-hmm.
T's taking stay bit anglers out there and fish the flukes on a Texas rig.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's one of the things I do different. I'll have a Texas rig for a 6-inch bait and a Texas rig for an 8-inch bait. So 2 different size hooks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, the way I like to, or the way I think that island reacts, I think the Texas rig might be a little slow.
Definitely. I'm playing it very slow.
Yeah, like those fish out, the bigger fish out there, in my experience, they like it fast, man. I mean, as fast as you can wind, plus a little bit faster.
Gotcha. So, with that being said, why are you choosing 6-1 and not like the 7-1 or the? I think there's even 8-1s now.
I tried some 7-1, some 8-1 Daiwas, and I just couldn't. It was almost too fast. The way my hand was reeling it was too fast. So I just get a better feel and cadence when I'm exercising my arm more, and with that gear ratio, it just seems to work a little better.
You think that's just because it's what you're used to?
Yeah. And instead of trying to find a slower cadence and then knowing it's going that fast, I don't know, it just kind of threw me off because for so many years I fished the 6-1s and got my cadence down for that style of fishing, and it just kind of threw me off for a while. So I quit using that one. I literally could not get bit. I changed setups and I was getting bit. So something threw me off. And like the 5-inch baits, when I fish the 5-inch 1-ounce lead head, I'm fast winding that thing on the top of the water as fast as I can, just trying to get them to explode on it.
So, do you have your own boat, or are you buddy boating out there?
I have my own boat.
What do you have?
I have a 2360 Ranger Bay. So that's my boat. And then my one of my good friends, Jay, he has you probably seen a lot of my posts. We call him Calico Jones because he's always catching the giant calicos. But he has a 25-foot Robalo. So me and him, we're super good friends. So we're always trading off to save hours on our boats. So like he took his rig out this weekend. I'll be next in line. And then once in a while, our buddy James Little will be thrown in the rotation. He has a Skeeter. Yeah, so it kind of works out, so you're not getting so many hours on your rig.
Yeah, I've got a small bay boat. I'll tell you what, those Robalos, every time I see them, it's like, oh man, I want one of those Robalos.
They're pretty nice, man. They're pretty nice.
They're a little bigger.
Yeah,
they seem like a little more capable when you get out there.
Yeah, more stout, more forgiving in that rough stuff. It's not all. It's not always the best ride home, man. It's like 9 times out of 10, it's a shitty ride home.
Yeah. So my boat's gonna ride more like your Ranger. It's gonna sit a little lower. And that's the same thing. Like we go to Cat, and it's like, all right, guys, it's 11:30. We're going home now because I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah. No, there's been a few times where I think Nick's been with me, SoCal Fishing Squad, where it's just been a shit box all the way home, man. And you just got to, watch what you're doing and take it slow and be careful. You don't hurt anybody or yourself.
Well, it sucks on those rides where you're like, I just want this boat ride to be over.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so much worse when you're the one driving during that boat ride. Like me and Daniel were coming back from Cat, and we finally get in the harbor, and I stop the boat and just sit back. And he's like, that was a pretty nice ride. And I was like, I never stopped. I never stopped moving or pushing or pulling or looking or riding the swell. I have been nonstop for the last hour and a half because it was there was enough where I had to slow down.
Yeah.
And the hour drive took an hour and a half. And it's like, no, at no point were we in danger, but it was not a fun hour and a half.
Yeah. There's been times where it's taken us almost 3 hours to get from Avalon to Long Beach. Once or twice I've contemplated turning around and getting a room down in Avalon, like, fuck, we can't make it. But something just gets in you and you want to keep charging, and you're
like, I'm already halfway.
I've never felt unsafe, but it's gnarly out there.
So when you say you want to turn, I've never been to the island before. I was supposed to go with them the last time they went, but I couldn't go. What would make you turn around?
Just super steep, close together swell. I think that particular trip that sticks out of my mind was a Saturday before Easter Sunday. It was a good ride from Clemente to Avalon, and from Avalon once we got past the point that blocks everything on the west end, it was just shit box, like 6 foot, 3 seconds. Ooh. You know, I mean, taking some over the bow. This is when I had a 22 foot Triton. So it was a lot lower boat. And it was gnarly, dude. And I was like, fuck, we need to turn around. My buddy's like, dude, I can't. I got to be at Easter Sunday. But we just braved.
Want to make it?
Yeah, we just braved through it and made it out.
Well, my cutoff point's 3 foot because I'm like, at 3 foot, I'm not having fun anymore.
If it's capped out enough, we'll roll out in 5 foot, but it has to be a good at least 10, 15 seconds. You know, I mean,
I was gonna say 15 seconds sounds better when it's big like that, but it just feels like that channel can turn on you because I've had times where, you know, it's 2.2 and you're coming back like, no, it's not. It's not, and it's no longer 10 seconds. Or sure, it's 10 seconds, but now we got this mixed swell in the water. And again, this is no longer fun.
No. Oh, yeah, it gets shitty real fast. And the older I get, it seems like the less I want to do that. You know, 10 years ago, we're like, gun-ho, fuck yeah, let's go, you know. But it's like, now it's like, fuck, I hate this. We've been launching out of Dana a lot lately just for the ride home. You know, for years we were going out of Huntington Harbor or Davies. But I would say 70% of last year's trips were out of Dana Point just because that ride home so much more better. And then it's actually the same because for us, Dana Point's only about 40, 45 minutes away. So at least we're in the car nice and warm, you know what I mean? And because that angle's fucked up from Clemente to Huntington or Davies.
Well, and you're doing that side swipe. I used to go on trips with a captain named Mason Stoller, and he was a Huntington guy, but he'd be like, no, we're launching from Dana. And like he'd get in that pocket on the way back, and you're like, man, it's kind of rough out there, but we're just sitting here in the pocket.
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, there's always going to go that way with you.
Yeah, but the captain was probably like, I didn't stop for an hour and a half. What are you talking about? I was in there, I was riding the waves, whipping the lip, getting pitted. And
no, he was just
downstairs enjoying himself.
Felt like we were getting raped by gorillas.
That's probably the time that I took Nick and his son out, and it got pretty shitty on the way home.
Yeah, it doesn't help when a wave goes over the bow and you're wet. That's just one of the worst feelings is you're wet and you're not enjoying it. Once you're wet, it's game over. Take me home.
So we had
sometimes it could be the fire hose all the way home for fucking 2 hours.
So we had one of our buddies, Simon, out. We were going to kind of fish some inner harbor stuff, and just as we're kind of looping out from South Shore, here comes the fucking Catalina Express full speed, and you know that thing just kicks a wake. Simon is drenched. It's the most miserable trip ever. I think one of the guys didn't catch any fish. I caught one. Simon caught one. So 2 fish caught for the night. But it was Simon's PB sand bass. And he's like, man, that was the best trip ever. But if I hadn't caught that fish, it would have been the worst. I've never been so miserable.
Sometimes it's worth it.
I want to give you an update. That was probably in the 300s. The red flake still looks good. No folding, no curling, no bleeding, which is a big part. I've had a lot of red flake bleed on me. So that's one thing that I like about the dead-on red flake. I mean, they have a good color selection anyways, but it's definitely high heat, and then the red doesn't bleed, which has been a huge help for me. So I use a lot of red flake.
Now, do you do any short pounding?
Hardly ever. Once in a while. I just don't have the time to. You know, like when I was taking a lot of baits to LA Fishing Alliance last year, when I go drop them off, I'd go hit a few short pound spots during the day, but hardly ever.
And you're like, yeah,
on that note,
spots never bite.
Yeah.
You just did a big drop at LA Fishing Alliance, huh?
Yeah. I got them back in the house over there, so they're all loaded up, ready for all the San Pedro and Long Beach people to have at them. And I got them down in Brea for all the OC people at Fisherman's Access.
Yeah. One of the funny things.
Tackle shops you're at?
Yeah, just those two. It's just easier that way, man. I tried the whole big cartel thing. It's just too time consuming. I don't have the time to be packaging shit up and weighing boxes and doing. It was like another job when I got home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I just rather take the small hits, sell them at wholesale. Dump off 500-600 pieces to each shop, and then they call me in a month.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things. I'm actually trying to work towards figuring that out, shops in general, but I'm also not rushing anything. I'm going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Admit it, you're slacking. I'm not going to name the shop, but one of the shops said, "Hey, can you bring some baits by?" And it's been a month and a half.
Uh-oh.
And I've been like, "Hey, have you brought those baits by? I'll drive you down there." Well, I'm gonna kind of think about what I want to bring to them. Wouldn't you? I'm even gonna say it before I can say. Well, wouldn't you rather I pour your lead first?
Luke, wouldn't you prefer being in the shop with me?
Helping them out.
No, actually, speaking about that, Tackle Shop USA has been a huge supporter, and I actually need to get baits down there for them. So, Steve, if you're watching, Steve, if you're watching, I am still planning to do that. I'm just growing slowly.
I feel your pain, man. It's the same way. Sometimes it's hard to get that push to want to go in. I mean, because it's one of those things. Like when you start pouring baits, it's a process, and I can't be bugged by the kid. I can't be bugged by the wife. I got to get in my zone. It's also a time for me to chill, and it's like my me time. And thoughts from the week go through my head as I'm pouring, and I just throw the radio on and listen to music. And sometimes I'll hear a song that took me back to a punk show back in the day, and I'll remember what happened there. And so I just once I get in that groove, but sometimes it's hard to want to get in that groove. But once I get in it, I could pour for hours.
Yeah. The idea is that I'm trying to set myself up in the most effective way possible, because I'm usually in the shop Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So I try to bang out as much as I possibly can during that. And if on the off chance I get an extra day or a couple extra hours here and there, it's a plus.
Yeah.
But, I'm a newlywed, so I'm trying to keep a healthy work-life balance to everything so that I can continue doing this for years to come.
Yep. That's the whole deal, man. You got to learn how to balance everything in life,
And Salty Bastards is calling you out. He says, "We know you haven't touched that damn boat in a year."
I know. When are you going to fix that boat?
When Jesus comes back? Come on. Jeez. The hour you least expect it, Charlie, the boat's going to come out.
It's going to come out.
But now that we don't really have the weather that we've been having, I can actually work on it, which is great. So I've been waiting for this rain to stop so that I can epoxy the bottom. I got to do all of that, and then I got to paint the boards. So it's in the home stretch, but that rain didn't help because I had like a week and a half off from work, and I was like, oh, this is going to be it. This is going to be awesome. And then it was just rain. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I tried to stay low and like not really post on social media and all that stuff so that I wouldn't have too much of too many baits to make so I could focus on the boat. And then I caught a big fish, and now everybody wants baits.
You notice how he blames 2 weeks of bad weather on a year of not touching the boat.
But yeah, he needs to get on it.
All
Get that
right,
boat
so
going.
shameless plug. We're trying to shoot for February 18th for Glizzies at the Ramp. I'm trying to get the boat done.
So we're doing putting together Glizzies at the Ramp 2.0. Where we meet up and just hang out, and we fish in the morning and then we meet up in the afternoon, which has been a cool thing, man. So
I've also got to thank you because when we did the first Glizzies at the ramp, I tagged quite a bit of people, and I'm not going to name who they are, but I tagged quite a bit of people hoping they'd repost it. The only one who reposted it was T, who was tagged, Fishall, and you reposted it and you weren't even tagged. So that was pretty awesome. That was when you reposted that, we were like calling each other up. We're like, you see that?
we were fangirls.
That was very cool of you.
But I mean that's an awesome thing to do, dude. It gets the community together, gets like-minded people together, and it's a fun time. Yeah. That's the one thing that I miss about the bass tournaments, the old SWBA and the SBS now. I mean, it's just great camaraderie. Everybody's like-minded. It's fun to hang with all kinds of people that are like you, and talk fish stories afterwards. That's the one thing I do miss about the whole tournament scene.
So I really thought Luke was about to pull a Kanye West and be like, I'm not going to name any names on who didn't repost us, but there was, and just go down the list of people who didn't repost us.
No,
I was like, damn, Luke's we're not going to be able to run this episode on YouTube with this conversation.
Hey, no one has to repost anything we do. It was just really cool that you did.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was cool, man. That was cool.
You're welcome.
Let's see. I'm gonna spend a quick second talking about Glizzies at the ramp again. We're gonna meet up. What did you say it was on the 18th, Charlie? 18th.
On the 18th.
We're gonna meet up at 6 a.m. We're gonna fish till noon. We're gonna have hot dogs. It doesn't matter how you fish. If you're a shore pounder, there will be other shore pounders there. If you do kayaks or float tubes, there will be other people doing that there. If you've got a boat, there will be other people on boats. The cool thing, we're gonna do it at Cabrillo. The cool thing about Cabrillo is there's a lot of stuff nearby. It's not a far drive to do some shore pounding. It's not a far paddle to do some kayak fishing. And if you got your boat, there's stuff right there in the harbor to fish, and there's even stuff around the corner and up the coast to fish. So
what I also want to add is you don't actually have to be there at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
That is an arbitrary time. And
you got to be there at 6 a.m. or you don't get out.
What I'll mention about 6 a.m. is that's when everyone's kind of bullshitting before they launch and talking about what they're going to do. And Daniel passes out all the free baits. Daniel's going to have tons of free baits.
I'm selling them.
That's why you can't get them in the shop.
Right.
I'm just happy to see people catch fish. I'm like, yeah, here, have some baits. Please go catch a fish and send me a picture.
No joke. If someone wants to show up and say what's up, they don't even have to fish. They can show up at 12 and just grab some hot dogs and drinks.
Yeah. Hell yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's pretty.
We will be telling the best fish story, and the best fish story gets to eat a hot dog whole. So you better come with your best fish stories.
No bun.
Yeah. Charlie's gonna skin a hot dog with his teeth.
I just baby barf.
Oh man.
The other thing we're gonna do is we're probably gonna have a meetup at the PCS show. So we're trying to figure out if we want to do that Saturday or Sunday. What we'll probably do is on one of our Instagrams, we'll put up a poll to see when people would rather meet up. So that's one of the things, especially some newer people. You go to those things, you don't know anybody. You're like, okay, I've been here for an hour. I'm ready to leave. But so we'll find a time when we could all meet up.
I'll probably be there a couple of days for sure.
Dude,
there's some good seminars going on too.
Especially now that it's big, like when Fred Hall was big, I would go to every day. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to go Friday and Saturday. Here comes Sunday. It's like, there's a couple things I didn't get to check out.
Yeah.
You end up going all 3 days.
Now, what we got to find out, and this is the most important part, is now that it's big, are they going to have the dogs jumping into the tank of water like at the Fred Hall show?
I know. What's going to happen?
It's not the same sitting there and eating your lunch without watching dogs jump into the water.
I wouldn't know. Never been.
You definitely got to go.
Got to go this one. Yeah.
See, again, Charlie, you might want to go Friday so that you can experience it, and then on Saturday we get kicked out. Yeah, I told you. There's a game plan. We don't want you like.
Oh, it's gonna be hard.
It's going to be a great first time for you, regardless. Because who on their first time is like, yeah, I got kicked out within 20 minutes. They actually have a picture of all three of us that said, most wanted, do not let in.
I mean, where did this come from that we're going to get kicked out?
It's probably from the time when me and Daniel got kicked out and they told him it's not illegal to be dumb and broke.
But it is illegal to be ugly.
No. Oh, man.
Was that what the cop said to you, dumb and broke, or was it young and broke?
Young, dumb, and broke.
All three. All right,
yeah,
thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming on. I think we're about to sign off.
Thanks for having me, man. It was a blast.
Thank you.